What's been striking to hear from this president, among other things, is how what he has said has been sort of out of step with traditional presidents. He's focused so much on having this good relationship, but as you look at these live pictures, Lester, I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, let's go to Hallie in the room.
Lester, let me explain what's going on in the room. Lester, I'm going to stand on my chair so I can get a better vantage point. That journalist from The Nation is being forcibly removed. He said he was told he had a sign, a malicious item as he described it, and then held up a piece of paper that said nuclear weapon ban. There are now 4 members escorting him out of the room forcibly. You can see they have their hands on him physically, trying to move around the cameras that are in the room, being walked out at this point. This has not happened in a press conference, obviously, in the Trump administration. He is now being, as you can see, walked out of the room, Lester. So as he leaves, we are going to work on finding out where exactly he is going. Let me just recap what happened. 2 people walked in and asked this journalist to come with them for what he described as questioning. He is from, again, The Nation. That journalist at first refused. It was a bit of a standoff, still calm, still peaceful. You probably saw some of the video there. He returned into the room. He had left his personal things in there. And when I asked him, sir, can you explain what happened? What did they want to talk to you about? He said, they've told me, they say I have a malicious item. They claim I have a sign. He then pulled out of his backpack, Lester, a piece of paper, an 8x10 piece of paper that had the word nuclear weapons ban on it, nuclear weapons treaty ban. We'll get you that video in a moment. And he was sort of holding it up as then members of the media were beginning to take pictures of it, saying, I just wanted to ask about it. I just wanted to ask about it. That is the point when the commotion really escalated, and you saw those, what I believe are agents, come in. There's somebody now taking and getting this gentleman's personal belongings, his laptop, his phone, his backpack have all remained in the room. And you can see now this security person is walking out this man's personal belongings.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.